I'd like to start this video by thanking the two supporters who have sent me money on Ko-Fi during this series. It was the first money that I've made from doing YouTube videos, and it really helped motivate me to come as far as I have. But, for reasons that will be clear in a second, I'd like to offer to refund you guys. Seriously, because I've decided that I'm not going to finish this series. See, a couple weeks ago, I said I was going to start explaining mapping, but around the same time, I decided to start another experiment. A tornado shot ranger made from a build guide. Unlike my other characters, this footage is not sped up. This is the real speed of this character, and this is in a juiced T16 map. I've had some revelations while working on this character. This character is in the normal Affliction League, and I've done quite a bit of trading on it. This character is so much more powerful than anything else I've made so far, and I've come to a realization about this whole series. I now know that I know nothing, and although it pains me to do it, I think it's best if I bring this series to an end right here and now, because a lot of what I've already said has kind of been misinformation. I wasn't trying to lead anyone astray, but I've come to realize that I just don't have enough experience in this game to be certain that I'm teaching the concepts properly. This series was intended to help casual players understand the game better. When I first started out, I thought that solo self-found was an ideal game mode for casuals, but I underestimated just how difficult it would be to get to the true end game with that. The best I've managed to do with my own homebrew build in SSF is about 300k DPS. Meanwhile, this Tornado Shot Ranger is running around doing over 8 million. I now know that it's not a good idea to try to just wing it when making a build. I also know that playing solo self-found is far more limiting than I had expected, and I'm not having fun in that mode anymore. I've also come to realize that I'm not really a casual. I've already put 165 hours into this character that I started just 2 weeks ago. My mistake with this series was that I was trying to represent and speak to a casual audience, but then I kind of segued into playing it from a semi-hardcore sort of approach. On top of that, I was doing it with very little experience compared to other Path of Exile YouTubers, and I think that's why it ultimately didn't gain much traction. In addition, I was insisting on following my own improvised homebrew build, which never really seems to work. You might be surprised how many characters I've made on the side while doing this series, and despite my best efforts, none of the improvised ones came even close to this one that I've made from the build guide. But don't get me wrong, I'm not upset. I did say at the beginning that this was an experiment, and sometimes those don't work out the way you expect them to. But I do feel a little bad about bringing it to an abrupt end. I know that I had a few people who were following this series faithfully, and I thank you for that. It also helped me reunite with a very old friend of mine, which is just an amazing story. It's incredible. This guy that I knew from a text game that we played 20 years ago ended up being one of my followers on YouTube, and now we've reunited on Discord. So that is a really cool outcome from this series. Anyway, unfortunately, for all the work that I put into the videos, they didn't get many views. This tells me that I simply wasn't quite right in my approach. I think that I was just a little too ambitious in trying to tackle this game. Again, to my two supporters who sent me money on Ko-Fi, if you'd like me to pay you back, just let me know in the comments or in DMs. Maybe I'll return and do a redo of this series, but that's something I should only do after I have a few thousand more hours under my belt. If I do a series like this again, I'm going to do it on a game that I'm actually an expert at. A good example of that is my old Morrowind video, which is still going strong. So that's about it for this one. I think that this series should serve as a cautionary tale. The conclusion here is that yes, an improvised character can get through the story, and even a lot of the mapping, if you pay attention to the synergies between your passes and your gear. But if you actually want to complete the game and kill all the pinnacle bosses, and the uber bosses, you pretty much have to follow a build guide of some kind, unless you are some kind of prodigy that can make build guides yourself. Even then, you're going to be working on your build for a long time. I've realized that these builds, they take a lot of research and just knowing the game, knowing what uniques are available and what effects they give and how they synergize. These people have to study so much to make these guides. And it's definitely worth it. But it's not something that, you know, a casual player is going to be able to just sit down and do, unfortunately. And you also have to be trading if you want to do these bosses within a reasonable amount of time. I had heard that trading is super frustrating and toxic, which was why I avoided it at first, but I found that it's actually really not that bad. Most transactions take only seconds, and you don't really have to say anything to the other person. They're in a hurry too, so you just, you know, you do your trade and then you get back to your mapping. There have been times that I sent a trade request and I didn't hear back from the person. That can be a little frustrating, but it is worth it to spend the time shopping around for that piece of gear that's going to make you stronger. I don't know what my next video project is going to be or when it's going to be, but I am grateful for my viewers and the subscribers that I've picked up along the way. I keep wanting to teach people how to do things in games, but maybe I should try something where it's just straight gameplay. I do like to think that I have a fun playstyle in my games, so I might try simply showcasing that instead. But until then, thanks for watching, and let's hope my next experiment is a little bit better.